But about 5 years ago, we ran into a little trouble. You remember that day?
I'll never forget it. It's one of the hardest days of my life. Exactly 5 years ago this month, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Exactly 5 years ago, and it's just so ironic, it was Breast Cancer Awareness Month,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
Do you remember going to get your routine mammogram and sonogram?
Yes, and I thought I would just run out of there and go to lunch with my friends and like a regular mammogram. And I did the mammogram. They said everything looks great. Then I was headed into my sonogram because when you have dense breasts, it's good to get also a sonogram. And they came back in and said something looks a little funny. And so I went for a biopsy the next morning and I thought, oh, this will be fine. You said, oh, it'll be fine. And I got the call that I had breast cancer. And it was one of the hardest days of my life. And my first call was to you. You were in New Orleans, and I said, remember you said it's going to be fine? I said, it's not fine.
I remember what you said to me. I was working down there and I was waiting for the call and you were crying and you said, I have it. And I lost it. It was the worst feeling of helplessness
Yeah.
I've ever had. Number one, because I wasn't with you. And number two, even if I were, I wouldn't have known what to say or what to do. It was all in the hands of God and in the hands of your doctors.
It's the greatest shock of my life. And it's so ironic because I was a bathing suit model, lingerie model, and
And there was no history in your family.
no history in my family. I've been very quiet about this for 5 years because I'm a very private person, but I thought this is just a great time. It's exactly my 5-year anniversary.
And it's been a tough 5 years. You've been on
Yes.
tamoxifen, which hasn't been a walk in the park, I think.
Right, and luckily I didn't have to do chemo. I caught it early and just did radiation, and that's a blessing.
You remember telling the girls?
That was the worst of all. Having the girls sit on my bed and telling them, they were so in shock. It was just devastating. And they cling to me more now, and it's just really sweet. They've been so supportive, just amazing.
I remember having all kinds of conflicting feelings about it because I lost my mother from cancer, and she was the most important woman in my life. You're
Yeah.
the most important woman in my life, and I think it took me back to when I was a little boy.
That's why it was hard for me to tell you because of that,
Yeah,
too.
because you don't know what the future's gonna be.
Right.
And you were probably stronger than I was, I think.
I don't know about that.
Really? I think you were. I think you set the tone for how we were gonna deal with it. You were.
Well, what made me stronger was you.
Me?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Your support's unbelievable.
Well,
and our daughters, and I have amazing friends and family, just a tight circle knew, and you just all got me through it.
And do you remember going to surgery? Because it was not long after the diagnosis that Dr. Ward and Dr. Hollister said, we have to go and give you a lumpectomy.
It was like the next day.
Yeah.
And then my margins weren't clear, so I had to have surgery again the next day after that. So it was just like shock after shock after shock.
Because, and what I learned is that they needed to make sure that it hadn't spread through your lymphatic system.
And it was clear, praise the Lord, it had not spread.
Right.
Because I caught it early.
I am so in awe of your bravery. If you were gonna give a message to the people watching today about checking for breast cancer, what would you tell them?
You have to get a mammogram, listen to your doctors. If they say sonogram, you have to do it. There's no reason not to. And it's
Right.
better to know, and you find out early, it saves your life.
I love you.
I love you more.